What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Sunday Trialogue. I'm joined by my co-host, Ricardo Calvario and Ethan Indigo. Welcome, guys. Go ahead and tell them where they can find you.
Ethan, go ahead.
Great to be with you guys as always. My honor. Ethan Indigo Smith, easy to find on all the social media. Trying to write pretty consistently, so got a bunch of articles out there and a few books as well. And I appreciate people who reach out to communicate. So hit me up.
Well, and as usual, my name is Ricardo Calvario. You can find me at X at the tag that is on my image at Ricardo Calvary1. I also recommend a look into my new podcast, The Shaman and the Philosopher, and to our girls, that is the Universe Unveiled, that just released their news for the week. So, again, excited to be here, and I hope we have another great discussion as usual.
All right. You can find me on X posting my horrible takes, and you can also find me on Instagram posting my horrible takes. So I'm anywhere you don't want to see my horrible takes, and you're gonna have to learn to like it. So tomorrow we got Alchemy Mondays coming up, and we're gonna be doing some water experimentation.
Hmm?
So we're gonna be doing a lot of stuff that I see Veda Austin doing on Instagram, where she asks questions, and then she uses these petri dishes, which I got a bunch of them, to see what the answers are. Or she'll put pieces of paper with words on them and then freeze the water inside the petri dish and see what images come out. And she's had really interesting successes
Mhm.
with the kind of things that the water kind of resonates with. So we're going to be doing a water experimentation tomorrow on Alchemy Mondays. So
Dope.
that's going to be fun.
But with water that you have previously frozen, right?
Well, what you got to do is you got to have the unfrozen water close to an object or close to a word or close to one of those questions
Yeah,
that
like
you're asking.
Masamoto
Put it in the
experience.
freezer.
I'm not sure if I'm saying the name correctly, but the Japanese guy. Yeah.
Right, right. But his experiments were a little bit more open, right? So he had to leave the jars with the rice in it open. But this way, with the ice crystals, all you're doing is looking at the crystal formations themselves. And a lot of times you'll get like actual pictures coming through the water. So like she had her water next to a pair of scissors, puts it into the freezer, and what do you know? There's a pair of scissors in the water crystals as she
Yeah.
pulls it out. So it's
Well,
going to be interesting.
what I remember from his experiments is like putting the word hate and love written in a paper, putting a glass of water during night in there, and then in the morning freezing that water, right? And then when it's frozen, you slice it up and then put it on the microscope to watch at the crystals. And when it's hate, it's ugly, it's non-geometrical, it's a mass. And when it's the word love, it's beautiful crystals, symmetry, sacred geometry that appears. But what you're saying is a step up, yeah, and very interesting. Very
Right.
interesting.
So I'm going to try and integrate this into alchemy a little bit because what I want to do is have all the methods of gaining answers from the elements to be involved in the meditation process within the alchemical work so that you can not only be interacting with these elements but also seeing how they interact with you as well. So this is going to be the first step. Then I'm going to see what comes up with fire, how you can use sort of a fire divination slash meditation, and then go down the line, see what you can do with earth, maybe geomancy, something like that.
Hmm.
Just sort of integrate all that stuff together, maybe take it out of the Abrahamic biblical context that you get a lot with alchemy. Just try and focus on the stuff that actually relates to the work itself. So
I'm
it's going
gonna
to be
be
interesting.
weird. I'm gonna be weird.
Yeah.
So blood has a lot of water. Has anyone tried that with blood? It can reveal the
Maybe,
soul intentions or his thoughts or something like that. So,
right? You're right. Yeah, there's a lot of potential, and I think a lot of
tears.
people are just overlooking it.
Tears. Have you tried with tears?
Lots of potential. I haven't done anything with it yet, and my box is still unopened. So you'll know what I know. So what topics do we have this week, gentlemen?
Okay, so if I'm kind of ready, so I'll start right over. I put a topic that I find it's quite interesting, and it's a kind of an unsolved mystery that I don't know if you are aware of. So there is this couple of speleologists. Am I saying it right?
I don't
I'm
know.
not
What
sure
did
what
you
that
say?
is.
Speleologists. So
I'm
people that
I'm,
goes
I'm
into
just a
caves
fan.
and sorry.
Spelunkers?
Oh,
Yeah, well, what I have here in the paper, it says speleologists, so people that finds caves and tunnels and
I
this.
think I'm just ignorant, and you are saying it correctly.
So I'm not sure. So their names are Enric and Ingrid Kush. So they have been looking for this kind of problem for I don't know, 30 to 40 years. They're quite old right now, and they have a few books that unfortunately are not translated into English because they are Austrian. And so I was looking into their latest because now that they are old, they are not afraid of fighting everything, right? As it happens with so many professionals in the either in the academic world or related to some form of information that is controversial. And so they have found under their own town that is, let me see here the name, Steinmark in Austria. So they found lots and lots of tunnels. Some go kilometers and go without end. And then they publish this, and other people that is interested in this kind of stuff, like colleagues from other countries, start sending them letters, say, "Oh, you found that there. We found that here too." So, as the final image that we have is Europe, from Russia to Spain to the UK under the channel, there are tunnels connecting the whole Europe. The problem is the tunnels are not big enough for proper use by humans. So that raises even more questions. So I'm going to read this section of my study on this, and I glad will be eager to hear your opinions. So this is the Earth-style enigma across Europe, ancient landscapes. So across the breadth of Europe, from the frost-bitten steppes of Russia to the sun-drenched hills of Spain, a silent network of ancient tunnels claws its way through the earth, defying every attempt to pin down its origins. These are the Erdstahl, man-made subterranean passages that Enric and Ingrid Kusch, in their unflinching exploration, detailed in the book called Torsen Underwelt, position as one of the continent's most enduring mysteries. Far from the crude shuttles of medieval peasants, these tunnels, often carved with a precision that borders on the supernatural, stretch across nations, with Steinmark, Austria, emerging as a crucible for their rediscovery. In this unyielding region alone, the Kushes documented over 280 new sites by 2009, adding to the thousands known from France to Session, I can say, from Bavaria's 600 recorded passage to the 500 scattered across Upper and Lower Austria. What these Erdstahl and why do they resist? What are these Erdstahl and why do they resist our understanding with such ferocity? Picture tunnels no wider than a man's shoulders, so 1.6 feet to 2.6 feet centimeters across, and their heights a meager 3.3 feet to 5.2 feet, forcing any explorer to stoop or crawl through their Spitzenbogen arches, pointed vaults that speak of an architectural intent far beyond mere utility. Some, like beneath the stiff Voro, extend for kilometers, their walls smooth as if sliced by a blade, a feat that mocks modern tools without mechanical aid. Others, found in the sandy lowlands of Eisenmark, of the unyielding granite of Bayern, bear the scars of ancient hands. Their V-shaped riles, the roofs, a testament to their lost technique. Yet, their age remains a battlefield of speculation, with hypotheses spanning from the Neolithic 3,500 to 6,500 years ago, through the Bronze Age, the Roman era, and into the Middle Age, as Heinrich Kusch notes with a skepticism that cuts through the academic complexity. The purpose of these tunnels is an even greater riddle, one that the Kushes confront with the defiance of conventional wisdom. Some scholars cling to the notion of refuge hideouts for a war-torn peasantry, or storage vaults for grain in times of scarcity. But the reality of these cramped, airless corridors, often with a single entrance, shatters such theories. Imagine fleeing into a tunnel beneath stiff Voro only to find your pursuers, by then Turken or Kuruzen, lighting a fire at the entrance, choking the life from you as you claw at the unyielding stone. Ludwig Stampfer, a Hartberg cleric writing in 1887, recognized this futility, noting that while Steinmark likely held countless such passages, their true purpose had been misjudged, lost to time, relentless march. Others proposed a sacred role, cult spaces for the souls of the departed, or meditation chambers for ancient rites, a theory bolstered by the presence of Meniers and Lockestein in Steinsmark landscape, standing as a silent sentinel to the underworld realm. So I just want to point before I pass the word into you that these entrants are marked normally by megaliths. That's how they found so many. And often it's not dolmens, it's just menhirs, right? So not so different from, we've spoken, I think, before about the green children, the case in the United States. They also came out from a place that is like a megalithic site, although taken down, but there was a menhir here near the hole from where the children came out. So these tunnels are highly engineered. They go from miles and miles. Most of the ancient cities that have them, these speleologists found that some of them are blocked by crude and modern stone piling, like blocking the passage to whatever might be inside. So they only use like 100 to 200 feet of these tunnels where they could move around more or less, or has a chamber or something like that, and then they block the passage to the rest of it. There are folklore about creatures living in these tunnels, and that's the reason why they block them, because they don't want to allow them to pass through or something like that. So what can we say or imagine from having the whole Europe carved underneath? Some of these tunnels go like hundreds to a kilometer deep, and going even through under the channel from Europe to England. So preceding clearly Doggerland, because that's the only way I can see it, is that when Doggerland was still active, they did these tunnels, because with the water, I'm not sure if it was able to. Well, they had the technology to do it in solid rock. So I don't know what ideas do you have about this?
I first wanted to ask if was Steinmark, was that the name?
Yes.
This town notable in the sense that it was kind of a centrifuge for many different directions of caverns, or
they were assailed?
Austria.
Yeah, they were assailed.
Austria. Right. Yeah. Well, I was going to throw in Austria is where they fought back the Muslim invasion of Europe with the winged hussars. Right. So they were your people, Lithuanians, that beat back the Muslims out of Europe because they had, brought their troops all the way up to Austria, from that Turkish side. And then right there at Austria, they were stopped and pushed back. So it's a very pivotal geography when it comes to warfare.
Yeah, but when you look at the Enkidu or the 1,000 underground cities that you find, they all have this very complex system of air, like these chimneys. You can breathe as good down there as you can on the surface. It's prepared for living there, for putting animals in there, to completely live underground with all your needs because they have current water, flowing water, they have all of that. These tunnels you can barely breathe after you going an hour into them. You don't have enough oxygen for a human to breathe. Their height is too small for a human to walk. It's too narrow. So what kind of creatures were using these tunnels? What was the purpose of carving hundreds, if not thousands, of kilometers, as they expose in their book, of tunnels? What was using this? Is from a past Earth, a different kind of creature? I just don't know how to explain
Well,
this.
it's interesting. You noted that they often would have markers of stone where the
Yeah.
entrances were. And look at the name of this place, Steinmark. It
Hmm.
literally says that in the name too. Stein meaning rock, marker, mark. Interesting that the town kind of says, "Hey, we're the spot. This is the spot." Rather, I can't help but think too, Ricardo, on um, your presentation of that. For my first, point of skepticism was if it's certain that they are made as opposed to natural, and then if so, the breadth of these similar zones, even if they can't find the connection between them all, the fact that it's going on all in so many areas, it kind of leads me to think of kind of what you're suggesting. I think, in the questioning of this preponderance of these things, were there little people. The Hopi called them the ant people. The English, Irish people in that zone had dwarves and fairies and elves, so on and so forth. And I just can't help but think that there were some kind of smaller beings that a lot of stories in India they call them the Nagas, maybe, right?
Mhm.
Or different short people. I think there were also, but
Little
it's
people for
just
the Native Americans. The name that they
the,
gave them literally means little people. So,
there is actually too a rock formation in Hawaii that is kind of inexplicable, a bit crude, but it's the legend goes that the little people built it, and the little people who came before us is usually how the story goes. It's a fascinating topic, and it's interesting. Headless, you pointed out like the military. Uh, militaries do wild things that are kind of left looking inexplicable after the fact. But Ricardo also too, it doesn't seem like it would be applicable for that, or at least all over. Maybe there's one instance or many instances among it, but it seems like it's maybe even bigger than that or different.
yeah, because imagine if you don't have enough oxygen to walk through
Right.
it, how would you have oxygen to work it? Right? Because you're cutting
Right.
stone. There's dust. There's debris. There's it. And another point that they make is they can't find after all of these years, and as their colleagues that are doing this in other countries, they cannot find where the hundreds of tons of material that were taken out is. There's no debris anywhere. There's no signs of any excavation. I know there's a lot of thousand years before between now and when they're probably made, but still it's such a vast undertaking that would show signs of where is the material that was extracted. We can't find it. Was it so finely grounded that it just seems like the rest of the environment that we find? And how do they breathe in there? That's my question. What kind of creature could stand going miles underground without proper tunnels or channels that put air into it, as we see in Turkey?
Might it have been that there was some form of aeration in the past that became clogged or closed?
Well, the tunnels are completely sealed. So imagine the top of the tunnels are like this. So it's vertical walls with ceilings like this, right? And there's no sign of any blockage. It's just rock, completely smooth rock. So it's not lava, because lava creates circular tunnels or like oval ones. It doesn't create geometrical shapes like this. Um, and someone clearly done it in under these conditions, and they didn't
And
have
they're all
oxygen bottles to do it.
the breadth of these caves, which are now across all these different countries in the continent of Europe, all have the same formation or geometry.
All have the same dimensions.
Wow.
What they found is at the beginning of the tunnels, because there's another particular case that is, for instance, in Austria, what they saw is that these tunnels come out of the ground again in places that today are still used, be it farms, churches, temples. They all come out in places that have some kind of significance or use. So it's not random, right? Of course, the farm wouldn't be there 3,000 years ago, but it was some place that was significant. It's more clear in when we have today we find churches or temples, but they all connect these places. It reminds me, for instance, of Sintra, right, where you have a 400-meter. I don't know how to scale it to feet, but the mountain is 440 meters high. Okay, so the tunnel that goes to the castle that allowed the Moors to remove themselves when they were attacked by the Crusaders, by Gualdin Pai's forces, by the Templars. They didn't fight, and they all fled through the tunnels. So imagine going 400 meters down, and then 2 kilometers. So it's like 1.6 miles or something like that, going underground until they finally came out on a place that's called the Well of the Moors still today, where the cave is still there. There is a well of water in front of it. And they checked, and these tunnels are still there. More so, the whole of Sintra, the whole mountain, is like Swiss cheese. It's completely filled with tunnels that today link places like where the monks built their monastery, the palaces, the castle. Everything is connected by these chambers, but these are different, are bigger. They are so smooth, but they have channels for the water to go by so that there is no flooding. So it's clearly a more modern thing. In terms of this in Europe, the tunnels have no preparation for removing water. They're just as sheer smooth walls with the ceilings in this shape. You couldn't transport anything through it. You couldn't travel through it because you don't have air to do that. So it has to be a different type of being with a different morphological look. I don't know what to say.
I think you're right on all accounts, but that's because I've been into Phil Schneider for several years now. So this is the guy who is tasked with creating an underground network of tunnels under America using nuclear TBMs or tunnel boring machines. And the method that he claims they used was through a massive nuclear reactor inside of a tunnel boring machine that would create a liquid lithium, right? And that liquid lithium would kind of create a tunnel of concrete and material around the outside. So as this TBM is grinding up all this material, the liquid lithium would cause the waste products to be made into tunnel materials for the walls as the TBM is traveling along. So it's all in one shot. You don't have to reinforce. The whole thing is reinforced as it goes. So it's using the pressure and the heat and everything else to do that. So let's see if he claims that there was a battle in Dulce, New Mexico that happened between him and the aliens back in 1979. Let's see if we can get into it.
More believable every day.
Who claims he was a geologist responsible for extending an underground military facility in the region. Schneider says he drilled 4 holes to extend the base further underground using a laser drill that melts the rock. When he was lowered down one of the holes to check rock samples, he was confronted with a 7-foot-tall grey alien. Schneider drew his sidearm and fired, but sustained injuries from some kind of electrical charge released by the alien. Schneider says he killed 2 aliens before being injured and sent back up to the surface by a Green Beret. The battle then continued between the aliens and the Green Berets down below. Schneider says about 66 soldiers died that day. In the mid-90s, Schneider gave talks on the US military black projects he claimed to have
Got his
worked on.
fingers.
The large
Got his
alien
fingers.
grays had been encamped there for as best as believed possible about 400 or 500 years. Had been one of their internal bases. And we drilled holes right on top of it.
Displaying metals, he said, were from black jets. Schneider lost his life in 1996. His official cause of death was suicide. Yet Schneider had reported multiple attempts on his life since he started.
Well, he's leaving out an interesting angle of that. So they claim that he committed suicide by strangling himself with the line to his colostomy bag.
Oh God.
What?
Yeah, because he was confined to a wheelchair after his confrontation with all of these aliens and such. He only had 3 fingers on his left hand, right? And he had, a few missing from his other one. And he had all these scars all over his body from what he claims was the battle at Dolce. I don't know if he's telling the truth or not, but that's where he says he got his injuries from. So,
I have to
yeah,
say,
when there's
one of it
Sorry?
is he. First of all, he looks a lot like the aliens that are he's describing, and second of all, I'm why aliens, right? It's a matter of perspective. I understand that, but
isn't that
Right.
what
It's
you're
a,
asking?
what? Sorry.
Isn't that what you're asking? Because we don't know what could have lived in these tunnels or made its way through there or cut the way that it did.
Sure.
I mean, these are miles and miles of tunnels. So, in some sense, you're almost asking that we see what the human produced tunnels need, but this is something different. Like there's
Completely, yeah.
air in these tunnels, and
My thing is, why call them aliens? Why don't call them a different species or race or whatever you want to call it, right? Because have you seen the Time Machine, the movie with
yes,
I think it's Guy Pearce. I might be mistaken, but I think it's with him.
yes, with the Morlocks and the Eloi.
Exactly. So they are not aliens. They're just a different type of being. In that case, he had evolved from humans by living underground, and they kept adapting and so on and so forth. But considering the span of age of the Earth, are we the only intelligent creatures that have lived on this planet? Are we so arrogant to think that no other form of intelligence came and disappeared or still living in another place? What about I can't remember now the name, but I don't know, it's 16 hours or something like that, a transcript read from the people that supposedly live in under Antarctica. So after they made that communication, that statement after the battle with Admiral Byrd, and when he went there with the army. So it's a huge text that we can't confirm if it's real or not. But the things that are said in there show that whoever wrote that has highly knowledge, has a highly understand of the history of the Earth that at the time wasn't that good, and it describes technology that we only can dream of on our days, right? So who knows who are the aliens? Are we the aliens after all, and not the people that occupy the Earth for the millions of years that it existed? So I think that the word alien in here should be considered more like different than from outer space. Because if you're out of space, you came here and you decided to live underground, it doesn't make great sense to me, right? No.
Well, actually, think about it. So, if you were going to colonize the moon or Mars, which would be easier to pressurize? Surface level structures that could be hit by any sort of weather or, rocks coming from anywhere, or underneath the surface. So, this has been a plan for NASA for a long time, is that they want to colonize using remote control drilling apparatuses that just land there and start creating the structures before humans ever arrive. That way, humans can go straight into the holes and not have to worry about trying to survive on the surface, because it would be a lot easier. You've got the pre-made structure. So for me to think about aliens coming to the planet and then living in tunnels or even precursors, I think that seems likely. But something else about the battle environment. If you're watching people today fighting in a given area, you're going to find right under their feet evidence of thousands and thousands of other battles that took place in those same areas, because the importance of certain geographic locations for controlling the rest of the region have been known for the same period of time. So having all of these tunnels going to a place that might have been embattled by two different continents coming together, that seems like a similar situation. There might have been some sort of struggle for control over those regions at those same spots.
Right.
So,
Well,
in
I
terms
don't.
of alien and alien, I
I'm
think
not
if it's alien to my perception, it's an alien.
sure. I'm not one in agreement with the theory of evolution, but I am in agreement with natural selection. So imagine a huge cataclysm where the humans that use, or the hominids, were forced to go underground, right? And some, after it's it's already safe to come out, came out and suffer very little differences. But those that weren't safe to come out or decide to stay underground because they didn't want to go through it again, in time, those that are better adapt will procreate more, right? And so the species will start to evolve probably into a smaller shape. You don't need the color of your skin, so you can go gray. Your eyes, by some reason, those that have bigger eyes or have better night vision will procreate more than others, or they have immunity to this, to the low oxygen levels. And after thousands of years, you have a gray, what people call a gray, for instance, right? That's the kind of creatures that were shown in the video that you played. So are
I
they
got
us?
another one. Are they us? I don't know. I don't think so. But I got another one. This is a trucker driving into one of these vast network of tunnels that Phil Schneider was cutting around the United States. So there is evidence that he was not telling lies about the tunneling project. The tunneling
Oh
project
yeah, don't
was
doubt it. It was real, and the fact that he was suicide.
right. Suicide by having his colostomy bag wrapped around his throat, which doesn't seem like somebody with a colostomy bag would even attempt something like that because of its dishonorable nature. Like, sure, I could see him killing himself with a gun. He seemed like that kind of guy, but yeah, I don't see him actually
Yeah,
doing that with a
that does
bag.
not make sense.
All right, so this is in Springfield, Missouri. This is where a lot of the transfers take place. So this was an old salt mine that they've
Salt mine. That's what
converted.
I'm going to say. Yeah.
Right, this is a salt mine that they've converted into this massive underground storage facilities. They have, levels upon levels upon levels of servers that are underneath the ground here. And this is where a lot of the AOS or AWS servers are, as well as American government servers, all classified, right? But this facility right here, there was another video that I had seen where a trucker was walking up and down the line as people were getting checked into this facility and asking them where they came out. And one guy goes, "One time I came out in Maine." And this is in Springfield, Missouri. So he went under the ground in Springfield, Missouri, and came out in Maine. I think this is probably a continuation of the project that you're talking about. That was thousands of years old. We just have no frame of reference. I think that's good enough to describe that.
Yeah, because in many of the tunnels that were discovered by these speleologists and their colleagues, they noticed that the first part of the tunnels have been reworked by humans. They made larger, they created chambers. The walls are not smooth, they are much cruder. And then after that, areas that were enlarged, you enter these narrow tunnels that go endlessly. They just can't see where they end, right? Uh, they can't explore them all. That reminds me of
Ricardo,
Mammoth Case, even it's Mammoth Case that they haven't mapped yet because it's so huge that they can't determine where it ends.
I had that pulled
Does
up
it-
actually. I was going to go to that.
Ricardo, does it appear that these cavern systems are connected, like via great distance, or are there many different smaller zones.
No, they connect from Russia to the UK,
Bizarre.
all Europe. So they
Of
found
course,
entrances in Spain,
they
in the
haven't
UK. Yeah, go on.
they haven't gone through necessarily because it's too small and too distant for a human to really go through.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And no air.
It's just no air.
And
There's
where? Right. I wonder if there were different systems that were smaller. I wonder how many might be initiatory zones. Right. See, you make it to the other side, you pass the test, you go through your greatest fear type of thing. I know that was something that was done sometimes in some places.
Here's a
Yeah.
scary thought. What if it's a massive Helmholtz resonator and the whole thing is like a giant flute?
Yeah.
And once they play that note, guess what? Cataclysm time.
It's possible, but
Or what about
it's
if it
not for
makes me-
humans? That's for sure. It's not for humans.
It makes me think what if some kind of sound vibration could be communicated via great distance for communication purposes? Is that possible, Ricardo?
Yes, the problem is they find that these tunnels then have layers. So they have levels. So you go through this tunnel, but then you can go lower or higher, and it continues in different directions. So it's not like an instrument. It's
Not
extremely
quite.
and there's no chambers. It's just tunnels. There's no the chambers that they found are the chambers that were done by humans from the 1600s to the 1800s, and from the case of this church where they came out of. So they entered in a tunnel in a certain point, and they came out on a church. So and the priest that knew of the tunnels go and get the records that he had from his former priestess from the 1800s, and they were saying that people hide in here when they were being assaulted in terms of war, but they were all killed because this is the entrance. They lit a fire at the entrance, and those that didn't came out died inside because the air was the smoke was driving in, and there's the air is stifled. There's no respiratory channels. I don't know how to say it. No vents. There are no vents. So it's not you cannot use them to run away from a situation and stay there because it's not safe. You're muted.
There is the idea too of the underground sort of subway network where they're using the diminished pressure to have kind of like a what would you call it, a pneumatic tube system, right? So you've got this sort of thing that's on magnets that is basically floating through a tube that has no wind resistance. So
it's a maglev, but in a tunnel.
Right, and the fact that it is so tightly controlled, you can achieve much greater speeds but these don't have any tracks in them.
No, nothing. Well, if you are so advanced in technology, you might not need the tracks. The thing is, there are no magnetic anomalies detected. There is no marks whatsoever on the walls. They are just, like you said, it's like butter with a hot knife. It's just smooth all over for kilometers. All that they did underground, it's the same thing. First of all, it's too small, too narrow, no air, and completely smooth, like some magical work that they can't understand how it's done because of how narrow it is. But yes, you could probably have vehicles going from one place to the other. But then how do you explain the vertical shafts? How do you explain the multiple levels? How would those transportation vehicles, or whatever you want to call them, move through that? It's not just a straight line with like a train would follow. It's 90-degree angles. It's weird. It's just weird.
It's giving me Truman Show vibes, right? So if we're a big show, this would be the back tunnels that the staff would be using to make the story progress from the background.
Sure.
We can't understand it because we don't fully understand the TV program we're on.
Because the Mammoth Cave, if there is a connection to what they call the inner Earth, I can understand that the tunnels go in multiple directions, but they all lead into a point of entrance into the city, right, or into the nearest city of the inner Earth. In this case, they are not leading into anywhere but to another surface point, right? At least they didn't find anything that goes beyond a certain depth and connecting to anything.
What I find with a lot of Native American mythology about tunnels is that there's this concept of instantaneous transportation. So as you're going into the tunnel, you're actually exiting hundreds of miles away, sort of like an instantaneous transfer of energy or matter or something like that is happening when it comes to these tunnels. That's what they were talking about with the ant people, right? With the Hopi legends. They talk about this instantaneous transportation. So maybe we're looking at it as if this tunnel is supposed to be traversed and not supposed to be some instantaneous passageway from resonating your molecules at a certain location and then having an equal resonation passing through the air, almost like kind of like a Akashic records transfer. Right?
Sure,
As
but
long as there's something happening, you can use your information along those channels.
normally those lead into false doors, right? Why would the tunnel continue for kilometers if you just are transported from a certain point from the entrance, right? Why does the tunnel continue? Because in the
I'd
case
have to know what the technology is.
sure, because for instance, you go into Hal Saflieni hypogeum, right? They only let us go to the third level. There are at least 3 or 4 more levels down that they don't show. They are completely sealed. Some of them they don't even research. They don't even enter. Right? They know they are there, but if they did look at that, they don't tell us what's there. But all of these levels, particularly the third one, because the second and the first are more like where they put the bones of the people that died. They put the bones on top. They want us to believe that they put the bones of the dead bodies on the ceiling of the structure, waited until all the flesh disappeared, and then take the bones underground and place them in these small niches on the second level. Right? This is what they want us to believe, which I find it strange because the smell would be unbearable, and that's in the middle of an acropolis. So it's
Right.
quite weird to me. But when you get to the third level, you find these false doors designed in parts of the structure. So that I can
False door.
understand.
That's making me think of the Inca. Remember the Inca false
Going
doors that
through.
they have at all their temples?
Sure, that allows you
So transferring energy,
exactly.
transferring consciousness.
Saint Germain. How was he crossing from one point to the other? How is he appearing from one place to the other in all over Europe, to Asia, to India, right? Sometimes we know that he traveled with someone, but the case is when he appears inside the palaces or appears inside churches or without going through security for anything, inside the king's chamber in his palace. So how the hell did he appear there, right? Without anyone notice him going by.
Hades was said to have a wand or a staff that would split the earth apart just by him pointing at it, and he could walk through the earth as it would split in front of him. So in some levels they might be describing a technology that we have no idea how it works.
No idea.
At least not anymore.
I think it's somehow crystal and sound related. So having a staff that can hit the wall and is specifically for that wall and uses the already existing resonance of the place and creates something that transforms the wall into a passage. Well, I don't know.
Hades didn't have a trident. He had a bident with 2 prongs like a tuning fork.
A tuning fork, yeah.
this actually leads to part of what I was going to talk about, the staff. If we're at that point.
Yeah,
No, go ahead.
go on.
In looking at hermetics of Tao, as I call it, and I wrote this book, The Tao of Thoth, there are actually two elements that we can see that the East and West gravitate towards or extol. And one, of course, is something I'm obsessed with, and that's polarity. And the other is the pursuit of immortality. And this is something that alchemists in the East and West and so on and so forth were looking for. Even one of the oldest stories in the Bible, that of the Noah and the Ark, is actually related to a story about reincarnation and coming back, or immortality, rather. Excuse me, and the pursuit of light and life, and the rainbow and so forth. But in Oedipus Rex, we get two riddles that I think really bring about a wonderful way to look at things. The two riddles are known as the riddle of the Sphinx. The first one is well known anyway. What walks on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the day, and 3 in the evening? The answer is man, right? And of course, the third part is known to be the aged and infirmed individual who needs a staff to walk with. And this is, I don't think, anything like what the ancient Egyptians pursued, for instance, even though this is a Greek play. This is kind of about the old world pursuit of immortality, rather than the inevitable aged, right? So the mastery, rather than the aged, has the wand or the staff, or and walks upright and so forth on 3 legs. And yeah, we see every character. Headless just remarked on Hades. We were mentioning the Hopi earlier. The Hopi have one of their main gods has the planting stick, and it's the same element, but in kind of Hopi terms, where they don't have something so intentional, or just a simple stick. But we see all across the world, all across different belief systems, the staff is an important part to the master, not necessarily just the stick that the aged individual uses. So it's interesting as far as like the technological aspect of the whole cavern system. Yeah, what might have they been using? Interesting idea. Moses, of course, I think is what that picture depicts.
No, this is Asclepius.
Nice.
Asclepius has the snake winding up, but you can see that same symbol in the Moses story. The scepter that turns into a snake and then turns back into a scepter.
Yep.
And go on, Ethan.
Go ahead.
I was just saying it's a bit off topic, but I was always intrigued by the part where Moses transforms his staff into a snake. And people consider that to be miraculous and an act of God. But how about the fact that the 3 sages from the Egyptians also transformed their staffs into snakes, and before he did, according to the Bible? It's just that his snake was bigger and it ate the other ones, right? So it's miraculous for Moses to transform his staff into a snake, but how about the Egyptian priests that did exactly the same thing? Right? No one mentions the Egyptian priests. It's just our focus is just in the magic of Moses, right? Because it's godly. So I'm sorry.
No, don't. No, that's a great build. Don't be sorry. I think part of the symbolism is the control of the wisdom, right? And what is uncontrollable and amorphous is made into a straight line, in that sense too. Ganesh is often pictured with a snake belt. And so he literally took wisdom, tied it up, and wears it. From an Oedipus Rex, the idea of the answer of the riddle of the Sphinx being acceptable is confounded by the fact that Oedipus Rex is completely unacceptable, and he's a victim of his own knowledge of his fate, as so many characters were in these plays and stories, where his father is told that his son will kill him, and he gets rid of his son, Oedipus Rex. And Oedipus Rex is told that he will kill his father and marry his mother. And he chooses a path to make sure that doesn't happen. But of course, in choosing that path, he makes with certainty that it does happen. So everything about Oedipus Rex is a screwy answer, but we accept the riddle of the Sphinx answer as being acceptable. I think it's more the master walks on three legs, right? Has the staff. The second riddle of that play that's less well known, and I think because it was not in older versions, I think it was adapted later into the play, is about the two sisters. And there are essentially, it goes, let's see if I can just read it. There are two sisters. One gives birth to the other, and in turn, the first gives birth to the second, right? So there's this endless polarity of one birthing the other. And what are the sisters? The sisters are day and night. So really a Taoist kind of polarity question and answer, as much as it is in a Western one. There's also said to be the third riddle, which is, how is there a second one if the Sphinx killed herself on hearing the answer? But that's just that's silliness. I just wanted to add. Interesting. Please.
I'm just saying, I always found fascinating that hearing from the oracle, or whatever is source of your future, right, is what leads you to actually fulfill the prophecy. And usually by trying to prevent the prophecy from happening, the steps you take are the steps that inevitably lead you to complete the prophecy. The most recent, it's years ago, but the most recent is Anakin Skywalker, right? By constantly being given these premonitions of what's going to happen in the future, by trying to avoid it at all costs, by going beyond what is humanly possible in order to prevent something from happening, he caused exactly what was premeditated to him. And we see this in all. This is not a coincidence, because Star Wars was developed based on Joseph Campbell books, but that dive deep into the hero's journey. But that's exactly my point, is every time that these people are told beware, by trying to avoid it, they fell into it. And my question is, if they weren't aware of the future, would their path lead into that end? Probably wouldn't, because they wouldn't be worried and trying to prevent it. So isn't that a form of control by itself? By headless, now you have a premonition during the night, and beware, because this will happen if you don't take care, right? And because of that, you fall exactly into that trap. So it's another form of control. It transforms the premonition into a form of control of your future.
Yeah,
it reminds me of
that, I think.
Sorry, go ahead, Headless.
To pop in on that one, so I would say that when you're talking about prophecies and people, this is like the theological grandfather problem, right? So they did an episode about this on Futurama. He goes back to the past, and his grandmother is super in to Fry, the grandson. And so the grandfather problem is who's actually your grandfather? Is it who you think it is, or did you actually produce yourself? If there is time travel, right? So you come upon this infinite loop of regression. So when you're given this prophecy, that's like the gods showing you a vision of the future. And then by sharing that vision of the future, you make that prophecy inevitable. Even though if you'd have just kept your mouth shut, things would have been totally different. And so I think that's why when it comes to prophecy, there's this maxim that the Delphic oracles had on the wall, know thyself, right? And so if a prophecy is more than fortune telling, where you can take your own meaning out of the images that you've been granted, then it's actually a conspiracy. Right? So if it's more than fortune telling, where you come into play, then actually it's actually people working behind the scenes to make it happen, because there's two types of prophecies. One that is sort of amorphous and gives you images that you can connect to your own life. Then the other one is this is going to happen. You can't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to happen, and you can bank on it. That's a conspiracy, right?
But in this case, you had Darth Sidious projecting images of his beloved dying at giving birth. But it's a murky water. Some say that it was the Force giving him those sights. I'm more inclined to be a grand scheme from Darth Sidious, planting that on his mind while he's programming him into the dark side. But you raised a question that I dwelt for many years. That is, I never bought, even as a very young person, the idea that if you kill your own father or your grandfather by traveling to the past, that you cease to exist. I don't buy that, because your reality is not based in you coming back. Your reality only changes after you come back. So I believe more on multiple realities. Like every time we make a choice, there is like a parallel universe where you make a different choice. And all of these universes exist at the same time. Uh, so if you go back and you kill your grandfather, you will not cease to exist, because on your reality, your grandfather existed, gave birth to your father, and your father gave birth to you, right? It's like another idea that was very common is that you couldn't touch yourself in the past because your molecular structure is exactly the same. And so the electromagnetic forces that don't allow us to touch anything would be neutralized, and you go through yourself because it's exactly the same matter, which I also don't buy, because the laws still abide even if you are in the present or in the future.
I was listening to a presentation on this idea of what is steadfast in time and what is changeable, and it was by a remote viewer with a lot of experience, and he described it in a manner that I think is reflective of what you're saying and useful anyway. That most of time is like the pond, and different ripples and movements of the pond take shape a lot. However, there are rocks in the pond that do not move amidst the changing elements. I thought that was an interesting potential.
It is.
This folly of man keeps coming up in these stories, right? Because we're so foolish, right? It makes me think of a guru student idea from India. The student wants to know the key meditation that will lead to his enlightenment, and he's bothering his guru about it. And his guru finally says, yes, you are right. There is one mantra that will lead to your enlightenment, and it is the following. And he shares the mantra, and he says, there is one key thought formation as you practice this. Never, ever think of a monkey when you are meditating this. And of course, this is the folly setup, right? Where I must not kill my father and marry my mother, like Oedipus Rex. And in being so adamant about that pursuit, he causes it. It reminds me too of the Taoist idea of not necessarily limited to Taoist thought, but we might try so hard to be something or to obtain something that we end up grasping it and it slips out of our hands every time we try to hold on to it, or get away from it. Yeah.
Ethan, I got to stop you because there's a movie that describes exactly what you were just talking about. This is called Somewhere in Time. It stars Christopher Reeves. It's from 1981. And if you've never seen this movie, this would be right up your alley. I think you would really enjoy it. Here we go.
I'm not sure if I have seen it.
Probably not. It's pretty obscure. Can you guys hear okay?
I can't hear anything.
Yet.
Now we can.
Oh, there we go.
Come back to me.
Richard Collier is about to begin an incredible journey into another realm, another lifetime, in search of the love he could never find in this one.
That's Elise McKenna. Starred in a play at the Hotel Theater.
When was this play done?
1912.
Dr. Finney, is time travel possible?
That is a question.
Arthur? Arthur? You're the only one who can help me. I was there. I was there.
Is it you? Is he the one, will you?
Walk with me. Please.
Collier, I know who you are. You came to destroy her.
God. Is that thing?
Oh.
Where is he?
Please!
Richard!
A haunting story of the link between a man and a woman, a link that goes beyond fantasy, beyond time itself. Universal Pictures is proud to present Christopher Reeve, James Seymour, Christopher Plummer, Somewhere in Time. Someday, in the past, he will find her.
Someday in the past, he will find her.
Right. So he meditates himself into thinking that it's actually 1912. And so he goes under, and when I saw this as a kid, I'm like, this is gay. How do you go back in time without any equipment? You got to have a DeLorean or something, right? No, he meditates himself. He changes everything about his room back to 1912 in this hotel that was built around that time period. And then he wakes up in that room in 1912, and he has one piece that can bring him back to the present, which is like the idea that they have in Inception, right? You've got that one piece that can bring you back, which is a penny that has the current date in like 1989 on it, or 1981, one of the two. I forget when it was made. And so, he finally beats the bad guy that's trying to keep them apart. And then as they're walking out of the hotel, he bends over, the coin falls out, he picks it up, he sees it, and then he's slingshotted back to the future. But the whole idea there was the same thing. It's like, he found himself in these different books and everything else that, indicate he was there at some point. So he had the belief in his mind that he could do it. And so all it came down to was his ability to focus that got him to the point where he could actually transfer his consciousness back in time.
It's a Groundhog Day. because he will keep doing it again and again and again and again and again, because he keeps going there and failing at the end because of the coin falling. Yeah.
Right. Well, after he gets out, that kind of closes the loop, because there would be the loop between him and the past. But then when he's in the present, he meets the woman, and she's like ancient. Like you saw her in the very beginning. That's supposed to be Jane Seymour in the present. So they meet up before he actually meets her in the past. Anyways, it's an interesting film, but I thought that was, it kind of exemplifies all of what we're talking about. His mastery over meditation and his ability to, supersede the laws of physics led to hubris, which caused his downfall, bringing him back to the present moment.
Sure, that why
Through
do
a
you
time tunnel.
in today's conception, would you consider that to be an OBE experience?
That's an interesting, like, I'm not sure how time would exist in our consciousness as being separate from the place we are. Like
Sure,
there would have to be
he had
multiple,
a map to construct that past. He had all those
right?
books, those passages, those places where he was with her. So he had a roadmap, right? So through meditation, through self-actuation, through OBE, he transported into what he known. I haven't seen the movie, but I'm deducting that he saw himself in the places that he read or knew that he was present, not in places that he didn't know that he was present, right?
The Americans copied the remote viewing idea from the Russians, and actually their program was less about remote viewing than it was remote influence. So it just kind of it leads to this idea where, traveling with the mind via time or space is not necessarily woo entirely, that we could say, at least. All these heroes of folly, they decided to pursue being king. Oedipus Rex being king. They tried to get away from their fate via some really yang oriented forcefulness, and end up stumbling into things. And it's almost in relation to Taoism too, just be honorable, and you won't, like, don't do things at any cost. Nothing's off the table. We're going to be king, and then I won't have to kill my dad or marry my mother or whatever it may be. Just be honorable and steadfast. And then those things really don't come up. But the
outer yang, inner yin, right? So on the inside, you're just reacting. You're just reacting to all these things that are coming to you. But on the outside, you're overly forceful. You need to have inner yang and outer yin. It's like, I need to pay attention to what's going on around me so that I can make the best choice. Instead, it's all just reaction upon reaction upon reaction.
And I think right now we're not living in a story where this is occurring, but a reality. In fact, look at what's going on with AI. They're building up this whole thing, and it's going to make us king, and it's going to do this, that, and the other for us. And yet we just invested $100 trillion into it, and none of it is coming back, and we're going bust. And so this folly of man's pursuits, I think, is directly evident in the story of AI right now, too. Right? One could speculate anyway.
No, I still think that the real reason for AI, apart from any military complex intentions, is for the ultimate robot. It's not for the use that we are having today, particularly. These are just ramifications. I think the whole idea of AI was born on having something created by us that is completely at our command.
And it'll make us king.
Exactly. So, and
masters of the future. Masters of the future.
As in every single mythology or religious tale,
Yeah.
there is always the individual that plays God and tries to create something to his image.
And look at
Always.
what they're calling it in the United States, this multi-trillion-dollar investment that some economists are saying that the United States is basically an AI economy right now. It has nothing going for it besides that. Just lost my train of thought. Sorry. I have a cold and I'm
No, you're right. It's another scam. Like we're seeing them set up another, like you're talking about the bailout money for all of these guys who haven't even produced anything of value yet. It's like, how are we bailing out people who haven't? We have to master the future. The future is inevitable. All of this stuff is inevitable. It's like, where's the product? What have we seen that's actually doing the things you're telling us will?
Yeah, but
that's what I was going to say just real quick, that they're calling it the Stargate program. That's like, here's your doorway to being a god. But I mean, it's illusory and it's illusionary, but sorry, Ricardo.
No,
you're right.
My question is, you speak about trillions of dollars of investment, right? So where does that money come from? Because the world is trillions in debt to someone.
You know where it's coming from? It's worse than you think. I think it's coming from essentially formations of A lends to B X trillion, and then B lends to A the same X trillion, and they will say that they have developed $2 trillion in investment.
Okay, but let's imagine. I know it's too far out, but let's imagine a perfect world, right? So when you are trying to develop something that you believe it's for the benefit of mankind, right? And money enters into the equation because you need money to do whatever it is. But then you think, okay, but who creates money, right? So if we have people creating money constantly, so money is not being, because you can have more money by selling or doing something, right? But the money is always the same. The overall money is always the same. You just have more of it or less of it. But that was only if money was only created once. Money is constantly being created, is constantly being filled into the system. So wouldn't it much easier, right? You have now this plan for helping humanity, and money is just numbers in a computer. So just let's make it up, because that's what I think it is. When you say there is trillions of investment, there is no such thing as trillions in money. It doesn't exist.
On that point, I have a couple of points to point out. So Tara right here says, these scams are messing with our souls. And I think she's absolutely on to something, because if we go back, you guys have heard of Tartaria, the Tartaria mythology that has grown up around these buildings that seem like we can't produce anymore. Why can't we produce them anymore on a physical level? It's because our money is so devalued that those materials and the people who worked with those materials have died out, and so has their knowledge of how to work with those materials. So by the act of inflating our currency, they've put certain materials outside of the price range of most people by making it so that your dollars go less further for the amount that you have in circulation. So now we're getting dumber collectively through the act of inflating currency. If that's not messing with our souls on a very physical level, I don't know what is. Not just that, but what they're using to generate, like Ethan was saying, what they're using to generate these loans is simply our signatures or the signature of the person who is accepting that loan. So upon the receipt of that signature, they go to the Federal Reserve and ask for that amount of money. So it says that you're actually the source of that loan by taking that to a higher banking institution and requesting that money. So it's simply the act of requesting that money that brings about the formation of that money. Which between corporations, that's a lot of fucking power. Not just that, but there is the first mover bias. When you're inflating the currency, it sits in a bank account and it hasn't hit circulation yet. The first person to use that massive amount of new cash is the one that has the most purchasing power for that dollar. Everybody else has fewer and fewer. So by them creating this stockpile of created notes, like you were talking about, Ethan, the very first time that they're spending those notes, it has the maximum amount of value. And by the time it gets to us, that value is incredibly diminished. So this is a method of creating a command and control economy simply through the act of creating dollars.
Yeah, but any economist would be screaming to the sky and wanting to strut my neck after I saying this. But I don't see why money should have a different value if everybody had unlimited access to money. I don't see what's the
Not
difference
everybody
is.
can draw it first. The
No, but
first drawers get the most power, and they know that. That's why they're inflating the currencies. It's directly to benefit them and destroy
exactly.
our purchasing power.
Exactly. That's my point. So, but but they didn't take value from money because people will still be making money by trading, by selling, by buying, right? So we wouldn't need banks. Ooh, that's a point that's very touchy, right? We didn't need taxes. We didn't need any of that, and anyone could have the life that they choose to have. And they say, "Oh, most people wouldn't work, and society would crumble." I don't buy that. Because if you decide to create an universal income now, most people will still work because if you take their work, they don't exist as an entity. Their life is their work. It's like asking a person, "Hi, who are you?" "Oh, I'm an electrician." No, who are you?" "Oh, I'm Richard and I'm married to Jane." "No, who are you?" Right? Because people don't exist beyond what they do. So even if you give
In
them
some
money,
cases,
they will still work.
I think I think what a universal basic income would do is it would cause the money to inflate immediately. So as you've given out the universal basic income to everybody, all prices would rise equally fast for everybody because you're just producing money, you're not producing things of value. So in doing so, everybody would instantly know, hey, what's causing this inflation? Well, we just got this check last week, and now all price discovery has now hiked up their rates based off of the new money input into the system. You've got to have the relationship between the money and the goods being produced and traded and being used for what they call price discovery. Why do we know what the price of things are? We know what people are willing to pay for them. So how they value one thing as opposed to another value. So a seller is always going to be willing to get rid of his stuff for less than he's getting in return. So he may value his goods at a certain rate, but he knows that people aren't going to pay that rate. So he's got to lower his prices to accommodate the person coming in with that money. And if the entire system is based off of this organic price discovery, then you can see how, inflation would start to reduce, because now everybody is trying to, chase after the goods that they're more closely valued at because, people can change their minds based off of these things. Now, there's a
Sure.
lot of pitfalls in the system, right? You could have cabals set up where people are like, well, let's see how much more we can get out of them for pool supplies or some other branch of goods that they could be monopolized. The problem there is you reach that threshold pretty quickly. People aren't going to buy from you anymore because they can have a different alternative where somebody's willing to take a little bit less than the maximum price set in that field, right? So we have this constant push and pull between the buyers and sellers that are creating the economy. But when you're injecting a whole bunch of free money instead of goods that are, used to trade that money for, then it's just a complete abstraction, which actually brought me to my presentation, which would be the limits of abstraction, the limits of ideology. This is more of a philosophical question, right? So we're creating these models in our minds over and over again with ideologies that have sort of come into them over the years, but they're not really connected to anything real, right? And what we find over and over again is that the abstractions of the things that we think are real, these ideologies, these models that we expect how they're going to work in the future, how much of that is really part of mastery, right? I mean, we've mastered the ideology, but have we mastered the real, right? The thing that the ideology is talking about. And what we find all too often is that the ideology actually gets in the way of us mastering the very real things that we should be pursuing as, sort of the form of mastery we're given from our ancestors. They talk about, well, this God has the mastery over this thing. We can see that in his hands. He's got the staff of it. Are we searching for mastering our own art? And what is that art? And does that art make us who we are? And so, again, you have to know thyself before any of these predictions can be anything of value to you.
Yeah,
But
but
if you don't know yourself, how do you find mastery?
and how can you know yourself if you're constantly being driven in a system that removes the self from you? Because your concern is other people's concerns, is your boss, is your school, or is your parents, or is your government, or is your army. It's always the only thing that is driven into you is you as a consumer. Your clothes, your music, that's the only time they drive into you. And still what they're giving you is a social engineering system, right? But it's the only time when the you is presented, because the church or the religion is demoralized. Like, you can go there, it wouldn't do anything for you, but if you want to go there, you're free to go. But in terms of who we are, it's been removed, because who explores his passions? Who has the time to, or the will to decide, what am I as a creator? What kind of art can I produce? And by art, I mean everything from music to painting to sculpture to anything you can imagine, even plasticine if you want to, right? So people don't have the time to explore, unless they were children. They don't have the time to explore who they are and what they have within to bring out. And that's the system.
It's a really
To exemplify
powerful.
that, I was going to bring up the magician card from the Thoth Tarot, right? What we're talking about, mastery, is walking the tightrope. It's finding the balance in very, very tenuous situations. And what do we see around him? Well, we see the four suits, right? And we see he's holding on the tip of his fingers one of these rods of mastery, right? One of these ideas of, not only have I mastered it, but it's resting on the tip of my fingers. It's something that I have perfect balance with. And so, in a lot of ways, the magician card is one of perfect balance. And achieving that perfect balance is where we can find ourselves, right? While also understanding that maybe at the extremes, we actually know who that person is. And if we don't have that seed of balance, we're going to find out that maybe we're not really the good people we think we are in those extreme circumstances.
It's a really powerful topic you bring up, Headless. I think you should write an essay on it, because you encapsulate the topic really well in what you did there. It makes me think of how often the institutions are controlling the narrative, to the point that we might know this idea, we might realize it broadly, but we don't see it specifically, because it's so insidious. Something that's going on today economically is the idea of affordability and obtain more things for less money. Well, the way to do that is not by setting up some rigging of political systems. The way to do that is to create resources. That's the only way to do it. Everything else is just a trick, right? And so, like,
we're cheating. We can't stop cheating.
And so, like, they literally are taking the topic into, oh, is it going to be left or right economic direction? We need left, we need right. No, we need to build up resources, and then trade occurs and things get less expensive. Another reality that they try to put forth, and right now is a big topic at hand, but 20 years ago, I remember seeing journalists being so specific that they would not slip up on this. And now I'm seeing it just a regular that journalists would put forth the equation of health insurance with health care. It used to be different topics of discussion. Health insurance does not equate health care. It allows you to get health care in the modern presentation of allopathic medicine. And so they're presenting it as health insurance is your health care. No, it's not. It's not at all. Totally different things. So we
That's
get
the ideology trap.
That's the thing. That's what I'm talking about.
We have the idea.
Right to your point. Yeah.
Right. We have that idea. Health insurance equates to actually health, and it's no, those things don't match up at all. It's just you have that idea, but there's no equation whatsoever that matches health insurance to better health. It's like you can even look at the health outcomes.
Only institutions, namely insurance and medical, would put forth that idea because they're the only ones that are benefiting from it, right? I mean, health.
Look at the chronic disease epidemic.
It's obviously health insurance is not healthcare.
Some defend that's the reason why at birth you receive a number, because that number worth a lot of money in several sectors of society. One of them is the health sector, right? So that number brands you within their system as not as a person, but as a value, as an asset. You became an asset as soon as you're given a number at birth. But trying to combine your topic with what we were talking before, in a society that robots are starting to take over and AI is starting to take over people's jobs, right? People will have to find something to do, right? And so this to them is a struggle, because if you remove people from jobs by creating robots, then that's what you want to do, is to create robots because you're going to make money out of the robots, right? But then you have the problem of people don't have their jobs. So then you need an universal income, right? But these people that are going to receive the universal income don't have the balance that you are describing. They are completely unbalanced and unknowingly to what they are and what they can do. So it's like a zombie world where people don't know what am I going to do with my life, because my job ceased. I don't have that balance, right? And then you have the next step is, if you give these people money to not work as the universal income, right? Some of these people will dedicate their lives to, because, let me step back a little bit. Now you are allowed to be creative. If you an incentive to do so, if you are working for a corporation or enterprise that needs your creative talents, but then it's for the benefit of the company and their profits and not your own. But if you are led to your own designs, people might start trying to create free energy, might start to create things that
Ricardo,
go on.
Ricardo, if you think about this in a different way, just change the perspective maybe 60 degrees. Robots are fiat consumers. They're meant to soak up all the money because there's way too much money out there. They don't have any values of their own. They simply produce, causing the amount of dollars in circulation to be worth more, right? Because they're just producing all the time, and the only thing that they consume is dollars. So it's not only a good thing for them to absorb all of this fiat currency and then have it be a bubble and completely explode and not produce anything of value. That's the way they keep inflation lower.
Exactly. I see your
because
point.
now that money has been completely wasted. And once they come out with these robots, those are going to be a great big waste of money as well, because they're going to be breaking down all the time. You're going to have to keep funneling fiat into these fiat consumers.
And then you have machines building up machines and repairing up machines that also need maintenance.
It's diabolical, but when you actually boil it down to its base level interest, it is just to consume fiat currency across the board. any way you could possibly imagine it, that's what they're there to do, is to consume fiat currency because we've got too much of it in circulation and it's killing us.
Yeah, it's diabolical, and it's because of the technological influence. It's exponential in its effect, but it's all so typical, right? It's like the same scam they've been running. That they're running it, one direction or another, either under or over speculate, under speculate, and they make
So,
it either way.
They
we are
can't
moving.
achieve balance. The only thing that they are incapable of ever doing is achieving balance, achieving mastery. So they've got to keep pumping up the system that hasn't worked at all for anybody but them.
So,
And that's the way they want to keep
It's-
things in
It works
balance.
for
So-
them, yeah.
we're moving into a Wall-E reality, right? Where everything
much.
at when the Earth becomes just a garbage for all the consumption that has been done, and we have to abandon the Earth because all we do is consume. The robots are doing everything. We're just consuming, and there's no more room for anything but the things that we consumed or buy, right? And we become sloppy, fat, unable to become what a human is today. Right?
I'm
So-
not sure if you saw, but the president of the United States made a very big thing about making the fat drug less expensive. And I thought that was just a shameful representation of any country, where we need to do that first off, right? To your point, that we're becoming fat and lazy.
Well, I was
You've
surprised.
made socialization impossible. Of course, we need the fat drugs.
I was surprised when I went to the 2 weeks that I spent in the UP area that I didn't saw that many fat people, but maybe because it's a harsh environment where you can't go to the point of obesity because you will die because you have to move in the winter is very harsh, and I don't know if it is the case, but people are more active. But I didn't find that much. I saw some terrible cases, like this kid that was probably 12 or 13 and couldn't fit to a door. And I see him on the place we are eating. I see him coming out of there with two huge, I don't know, ice cream, milkshake. I don't know what it was, right? But he was from one and the other coming out. And the mother parked not in front of the store, but on the back. We'd have a small window, so I could see the boy coming out, going all around, entering the car where the mother, I think it's the mother was, and taking the kid out. So the mother don't even get out of the car. I don't know if she's embarrassed by the son or whatever, or if she's too fat to move. I don't know. But how do people let themselves go to that point is just beyond me. And I'm not criticizing the fatness.
No, it's a valid question.
I'm criticizing the fact that all that is lost by that gain of fat. Not to mention, and this is highly controversial, that fat reduces your cognitive ability. So when you get to a certain point, that the fat reduces the ability of you to be as intelligent as you can be. That I'm trying to be as less controversial as possible here. So
You can never live up to your full potential if you're.
Sorry?
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say you can never live up to your full potential if you're fully. This delay is killing us.
Yeah.
If you're fully engaged in being nothing but fat, you know.
And it's almost like you have to really try. Like, are you not doing anything else that you are eating 4,000 plus calories or whatever it is? It's like that's you are dedicated to becoming obese at some point.
Look, Ricky Gervais.
Is it any different than internet addiction? I mean, it's the same hormones that cause pleasure sensors, so it's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, but first of all, some years ago in Europe, we started seeing that they understood that the consumer was getting fatter. So by showing perfect bodies to certain products was being counterproductive. So they start justifying being fat to people. Like, it's okay to be fat. It's okay not to exercise. It's okay not to be
That
healthy.
positive
It's
movement.
okay not to be healthy. This is the end point, right? So
And sorry.
Go
Yeah.
ahead, hit it.
No, just that because we don't interact, we just assume that we're, fair and handsome and this and that. We're not interacting with other people, but having our large socialization online, as you pointed out, and it's like it all comes together. Like you allow yourself to degrade into, unhealthy.
True or not, Ricky Gervais has this tale that he uses in his stand-ups, in his shows, that he was in a plane, which I don't doubt, it's possibly a little exaggerated, but true. He is in this plane and he sees walking in this woman that take literally 2 chairs to sit down, and she's carrying 2 huge buckets of fried chicken. Okay, right? 2 huge ones, right?
Wisconsin-sized fried chicken.
Yeah. So and the person that she's with, she's eating the chicken and saying to this is the best fried chicken I had today. And don't you? So I think this is the epitome of you are over the top. Okay, it's too much. Probably it's too late for you now, right? But at least let's make it an example to others, because it's too much. You lost what is being human. You cannot do what a normal human can do, right? It's transhumanism in itself, because it's no longer being human, because you cannot walk properly, you cannot run, you cannot have sex, you can nothing, right? When you see these kids that they reach 13 years old and they no longer can see their dicks, something is wrong with you, okay?
Wally hover chairs. That's the answer. We need Wally hover chairs and robots to do everything. We could just
Exactly.
hover right up on top of all the garbage and we'll be fine.
And they can make fun of people who walk.
Yeah, those assholes. What do they think they're doing? They're showing us. See, this is the problem. I think there was a missing piece to the entire American unhealthy diet scheme where you just eat, eat, have no shame because it's all about you. It's all about that. The missing piece was the aggression. And I think fat positivity injected a nice piece of aggression right into that whole sort of milieu. So now, if you are doing anything that makes that person feel uncomfortable, you're the problem. You're the problem. So, walking, you're the problem. You need to be on a hover bed because don't you know other people have to be confined to that hover bed because of their massive weight? And you're being insensitive walking around on your feet. So get on that hover bed and stop making everybody else feel bad.
Look, I know this is quite hard for people that maybe some people that are listening are overweight, but it's a state of mind, right? If you are indeed happy of being as such, if you are conformed with the idea that you're going to be more prone to diseases and to an early death than other people, all for the pleasure of eating as much as you want, by all means, please do it, right? But if you live in anguish with yourself because you cannot stop eating, it's like any other addiction. You just have to transform your mind into a different setting. You just have to realize that you want to be different. I'm not going to say better. You want to be different than you are now. So, and now, be it now, or being now in an hour or now in a month, is the now that you have to change your mind and start making changes if you're not happy with yourself. Because most of the people that I see saying that I'm very happy for being 300 pounds, they are not. They're lying. They are not. It's just a way to justify yourself. You are not happy being as such, not being able to do this or that or whatever.
There are huge compilation videos on YouTube right now where you've got all those people saying, "I'm 600 pounds and I'm happy with myself,"
Exactly.
and they show their date of death
Oh,
immediately after it. So,
oh,
I mean,
wow. Yeah.
it takes such a toll on the body. It will kill you, right? That's the part they're leaving out is it will kill you, and it's gonna be soon.
And you see documentaries, images from the 50s and 40s and 60s on the America, maybe even 70s, and that didn't happen in the population. I see lots of fit people because schools, because it had good exercise programs. uh, People were athletic. The Americans
And
were an athletic people, and all of a sudden the whole world transforms into this eat as much as you can buffet.
right.
Right.
I was going to say, yeah, no one back then was so transfixed with happiness equating to gluttony, right? Like now Americans, pursuit of happiness, pursuit of eating whatever I want all day long. For those that might have the inclination to lose weight and reason to, it's of course important what we eat, but a trick is of importance to losing weight and maintaining a good weight is when we eat, right? So 12 on, 12 off is the most conducive to get into a balanced weight.
Well, I think we are all
Isn't it?
different. I need to eat, for
Sure,
instance,
sure. No,
every
of course.
2 hours I'm starving again, right? But I don't eat 15 pounds of food each time. So I think,
Well, yeah, right. You obviously you have the probably the warrior diet, what they call. Eat small
Isn't it
amounts.
funny? Isn't it funny that the more America and the world is addicted to fiat money, fiat currency, inflating our currency away, the more people get addicted to hollow carbs and all of the rest of this food addiction that goes along with having your currency devalued so that you can only afford the shittiest stuff in the supermarket, which is just packed full of these chemicals that make it last longer, so that they can make a profit off of it.
And I find even
So
when money is not necessarily the foremost matter of concern, they'll get McDonald's, right? Like what's this food delivery service? Huge for since
Uber
the
Eats.
you're right, yeah, Uber, and huge since the pandemic. Its stock just took like a pitfall crash. No one's using it right now. Everyone's going broke. But people, they wouldn't order yogurts. They would order a Big Mac, right?
one.
Right.
Look, I was at this diner, right? And one of the problems that I find in America is in Europe, you choose a dish from the menu, and that's it. It's the dish. You just say, I want number 12. That's so I don't have to name the dish. And that's the dish. In America, I look at the menu and I said, okay, what can I eat from all of this? And then, okay, I'm going to choose this. And the person comes and what do you want? Oh, I want this. Okay. And what do you want at the side? What do you want to drink? What is the gravy? What is the this and that? There is 7 or 8 options to put on top of the dish. And one of the time, the guy said, do you want some gravy with it? Because I choose a steak or something or whatever it was. Do you want some gravy with it? And I imagined that it come in a cup or something, like a little bit of gravy or whatever, or in the dish. And I said, yeah, okay, I can have it. It's a bit of broth that I probably never had, so let's just try it. And when the plate is put in front of me, I couldn't see the meat because the gravy was extremely thick, right? And was like a mountain on top of the food, right? I had to scrape it all. I had to ask another plate to take it off in order to be able to eat. Who the hell eats that? It's like 5,000 calories just in the gravy, right?
All right, you Euro. I can't say it on YouTube. Here we go. You're going to enjoy some of this American fine food right here in Branson, Missouri. This is Lambert's,
We're here
home
at
of the
Lambert's
throwed
Cafe,
rolls.
home of the throwed rolls. We've never been here before, so this should be fun. What do you think, guys?
I'm cold, but this looks fun. Excited. Megan, are you excited? Yeah.
Look at that gift shop. Acres and acres and acres of eating and consuming.
But they are excited.
Oh, when I went to Lambert's, it was full. There was a line of people up and down outside of it. So American.
Oh, American nightmare. Huh?
Thank you.
Okay, so what they do is they bring out hot rolls every 5 minutes, and then you put your hands up and they huck it to you. And so every 5 minutes they've got enough. Look at the size of those trays. I love this place. It's so amazing. At least once. You got to go here.
You want grilled cheese? And what else? What are you really waiting for?
Another roll.
You want a roll?
Yeah.
Were they good?
It's not just the rolls they come out with. They've got massive plates of sides that they bring up to your table. And they're like, you want some hominy? And they just start dishing it out to you. I guess this was during COVID.
Jesus.
Hi.
There you go.
Thank you.
Well, it's good for dexterity.
Yep. And it brings everybody together. It makes everybody happy. Gets your body involved.
All right. Who do I need to
Look at the size of that tray.
Yeah, dude.
What you want?
Food. They pile it up.
Try it.
Fried okra.
I was going to say it's.
Fried okra's
I can
great.
feel the heat.
Everything's
Megan?
fried.
You don't like fried okra?
No, he loves it.
Oh.
Look at this portion. Dude, this is making me hungry. Okay, I gotta stop. But yeah, that's Lambert's. You want to talk about mastery? You got to go to Lambert's and catch a roll, and then fit like 50 of them in your mouth. It's great.
Even in ice cream shops, you go to buy an ice cream, and they have 7 different things to add to your ice cream. No, I just want the ice cream. And I thought that Dennis Leary was getting a little bit ironic when he said, "I just want a black coffee. Where is the black coffee? I can't find black coffee anymore." So,
but I think Lambert's is as the symbol of maximum consumerism. And there's another one in the South, Buc-ee's. Have you ever heard of Buc-ee's? It's this gas station, and it's got on the side of it. Well, not the side of it. The whole thing is like the size of a Walmart. So you're going in and out of this gas station that's the size of a Walmart, and the entire parking area is just nothing but gas tanks, and it's just all this kitschy garbage on the inside of it. I think those are going away, but that's like the only building projects that are going on right now is building these massive gas station Walmarts.
do you have in America places like all you can eat? Because in Europe, and specifically in Portugal, we have this. It's called the chimarrão. So you go in and you have different kinds of meat, and you can ask as many times as you want. You just pay like 35 euros or 40 euros per person, and you can eat as much as you can. The problem is when they find people that go systematically and they don't look like they can eat as they can, and they are there at the first hour and they stay there for 4 hours eating, you are invited not to return. Right? Because they have
Americans.
Because they are expecting you to eat as a human normally would eat, so they make money out of it, right? So I'm imagining that in America, where people can eat a lot more than a normal European would, right? That wouldn't be economical viable unless you charge 150 a person. So, because I don't know, it's just as in any other area of society, I think it's gone over the top. The freedom, it's the freedom of I can do whatever I want. In this case, is the freedom that I can eat whatever I want, either is good for me or not, right? And specifically because food isn't that good. I was looking at the breakfast place. I saw the bringing eggs to make more eggs, right? And the eggs were white. And I thought, oh, they're using duck eggs. And the guy next to me said, no, they are not duck eggs. They are bleached eggs. Because he explained to me that the bleached eggs are cheaper than the normal eggs of the chicken. So, and immediately I think, okay, so you have to spend money in the process of bleaching the eggs to make them white, and it's still cheaper than the eggs that you just take out of the ass of the chicken and put on sale. How is that possible?
The egg is a permeable membrane. When they're bleaching chicken eggs, they're putting bleach into the eggs themselves.
Exactly.
Nasty.
But it's cheaper. They spend more money, but it's
and
cheaper.
Apparently, the eggs that are untreated would last longer with less refrigeration, generally speaking. But I think it's the United States is so E. coli lawsuit afraid is what happened, but could be something else.
Yeah. They're reactive. All they're doing is reacting. So this is something I wanted to bring up. It's called diminishing marginal utility. That's exactly what you're talking about when it comes to consumers. So the economic principle that as a person consumes more of a good or service, the additional satisfaction they get from each successive unit decreases unless they're going to places like the one I just showed you. This means the first item provided has the most utility, while each subsequent item provides less additional pleasure, even though the total satisfaction is increasing. For example, the first slice of pizza is very satisfying, but the fifth slice is less so. Which is exactly what we're talking about. If you can screw up those signals, if you can screw up those values, you can get people to spend more money than they should on things that are less pleasurable than they are.
There are exceptions. If you've seen the 12 tasks of Asterix, right, there is this task where they have to eat what the cook, the chef of the gods creates. So it's like full cows with the two siblings, or a giraffe, or whatever. It's just enormous amounts of food. So obviously it's Obelix that goes into there, right? So it's what I was saying when. So when the food of the gods ends because the person that is eating eats more than what it's commercially viable, right? You see the chef of the gods coming out crying, going away. He destroyed my life. He ended all I had to provide for as food. And Obelix comes out of the cave and says, well, has anyone seen the chef? I was just starting. So it's like a perfect caricature to some of these parts of the population. It's never enough. As long as I have the money to put in, I will keep on going. And it doesn't seem that they are having less pleasure at the last slice that they hit at the first, because they are beyond the pleasure. It's already a necessity. It's like the glandules are constantly giving them the sensation of pleasure by doing something that they know it's not good for them, but it sure feels good, so they keep on doing it. It's a round and round circle, exploited by those that make money.
Loop.
By those that make money.
Ironically, though, I think that places like Lambert's would actually be more healthy than some of these health food places, simply because of the interaction. Like the vibe itself is beneficial. And people don't realize like there's energy involved with the consumption of this stuff. And the more that look for that energy around this food and the people and everything else, the fatter we get, because it's a result of the consumption in the process. So it's like that snake eating its own tail. And so we're sort of stuck on the feeling, and it's less about the actual product itself.
Hmm.
And unless we can divorce ourselves from that ideology, I don't think we'll ever be able to see it. Once we can step away from the ideology and have some perspective, then it comes into very clear focus. But unless you do, it's all going to be about the feelings from here on out.
And I think food is just a visible side of it, because people do that in all areas of consumption, right? It's just in food you get bigger, and so it's visible. But in other areas that you consume until you are in terrible death and ruined, you don't see that. It's only the person that is doing that suffers the consequences. The rest of the society doesn't see it or get hurt because of it. But in the end, I hope seriously that all of this that we've been talking, Ethan, that you put it into your mind and you try and get to be a little bit thinner. Okay, stop eating.
He's got such a problem. He doesn't know what we're talking about.
No.
Well, I thought yeah. It took me a second there. I got a cold. Yeah, I really have a problem with overeating. That's for sure.
So we see where you are. There's just a painting on the wall. You've changed everything into food. All you had. So it's time to stop. Okay.
Well, it's
there
not,
is the concept.
Eat to live or live to eat. That's what we gotta embody.
Conspicuous consumption, right? That's sort of what we all assume is going on with people who are bigger, is that it's like the conspicuous sign of consumption. But at the same time, there's these other cycles. This food has to be packed full of stuff that's non-digestible for it to be lasting this long. So, we always assume that it's going to be this conspicuous consumption, when in reality we're being poisoned, and poison has to be stored somewhere. And the very top place for poison to be stored is in the fat cells. So you got to make more of them.
And the Romans are laughing at us because they are saying we were more advanced. We had vomitariums. You don't have vomitariums on your facilities. So.
Well, you'd be surprised with how much food you could eat if the food's not poison. You could eat a whole lot of it and it'll just pass through you because it's not poison. But if it's poison, it'll get stuck in those fat cells where the body can store poison away from vital systems. Go figure.
Ethan, you were saying?
I was saying that the whole poor diet selection that we kind of are really limited to is enshittification processes related to our diet, right? Like we're on some food that's genetically modified to be able to withstand pesticides. It's pretty dark. It's not genetically modified to be more nutritional or to be this or that. It's, to grow with less water and withstand the saturation of pesticides.
Yeah, and why is that biological food that doesn't use pesticides? So that is the most expensive part of any agricultural venture is the pesticides and the fertilizers and so on. If biologically use only natural elements, why is it more expensive?
Because it's parasitic. The actual anti-parasites they're spraying on these crops are parasitical. Because what they're thinking is the long-term benefits of always spraying these pesticides all over the fields, as opposed to how much good they're actually doing for the farmer themselves. So they're not thinking long-term. They're only thinking about the short-term consumption of their product. And it's parasitic.
Yeah. What I was saying is, even that is conditioned to, if you have money, you can eat better. If you don't have money, you have shitty food to eat. So you'll be dying earlier. Your sons will replace you. You don't have problems with old age. We don't have problems with consuming a long time service in the community. we have to pay for socials or whatever it is. You just come, you work for 20 to 30 years, and you are replaced by your sons, and you keep the cycle of eating shitty food and having health problems and dying sooner, and you're just replacing humanity with humanity constantly. Like, if that isn't a robotic already existence, I don't know how can I show it better.
Absolutely. Well, this was a great episode, guys. We're right at 2 hours. We went overtime, but thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again on the next Sunday Trialogue.
Thank you.
Share the stream. Get other people interested. Thank you, guys. Bye.